I love lightweight cars. Caterhams, Elises, sports cars with plastic windows, hot hatches with their rear seats removed. That sort of thing. Offer me a choice of car for a mountain road like this, and that's what I'd pick. But I have a confession to make. I also have a penchant for a car that is the antithesis of all that. A car that weighs 2 tons and is capable of keeping going when the tarmac peters out. Yes, I really rather loved the first 2 generations of the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. And now there's a new one, so we're in Crete to see if it's any good. I suspect that admitting to liking a Cayenne is a bit like a film critic admitting to binge watching Michael Bay Transformer films in their spare time. But there we go, I've said it now. So let's see what this new one is like. First thing to say about this new Cayenne is probably, well, the interior. You'll recognise much of this interior from the Panamera, but it is very smart nonetheless. This huge screen here is just, well, all the graphics on it are wonderfully crisp. The resolution is fantastic. And sometimes you get into a car and you sort of think, oh, it doesn't look as good as my phone. This really does. It is a lovely place to be in here. We've also got new sports seats in here, which have integrated headrests, just to make that S in SUV all the more apparent. As ever with the Porsche design department, it's a case of evolution, not revolution, in terms of the new Cayenne styling. Sadly, that means the larger, more gaping mouth of a grille at the front and the thin light bar at the rear have done nothing to make the car any prettier overall. Not that its looks seem to affect its sales. Under the skin, the big news is the 48-volt anti-roll system. Now, you might recognise that from the Bentayga and the Q7. So the question is this just an Audi or a Bentley in drag? Well, no, because the other thing they've added is rear-wheel steer. They've had that on sports cars for some time, but they admit it was quite difficult to get it to work on something this big and heavy, but they've managed it. Under the bonnet, we've still got a turbocharged V8, but gone is the old 4.8 litre, and in its place is a new 4 litre, just like in the Panamera. This new engine's now got the turbochargers sitting inside the V. The response is certainly fantastic. It's still going through a 8-speed auto box. One thing, it perhaps hasn't got quite that deep growl that the old 4.8 litre had. Still sounds pretty good though. Curiously, despite the reduction in engine size and a lighter body shell, the new Cayenne Turbo is actually slightly less fuel efficient than the old Cayenne Turbo, with the new car only managing 24.1 mpg to the old one's 24.6. Odd. Crete really is absolutely beautiful. I've wanted to come here for ages. The roads are a mixture of lots really of very narrow little roads, but we've found some sections that are bigger, and up in the mountains it's just spectacular. It might be quite difficult to get a car out here, but it's certainly worth it. The performance of this car is pretty monstrous as well. We've got 542 brake horsepower, 568 pounds-foot of torque. This will do 0 to 60 miles an hour in just 3.7 seconds with Sport Plus engaged, and 0 to 100 miles an hour in 9.2 seconds. 9.2 seconds, that's absurd for something that weighs over 2 tons. Right, so we've got a closed piece of road, Sport Plus, left foot on the brake. That's pretty impressive. Yep. That's like watching a sumo wrestler do under 10 seconds for the 100 metres. It's that shocking. Wow. Of course, if you've got all that power, then you need a fairly serious set of brakes. We've got another set of 4 letters to remember. It's PSCB, which is Porsche Surface Coated Brakes. They've got a tungsten carbide coating on them, which makes them look a bit like the Akabono brakes from the P1. It's very shiny and supposedly makes them last up to 30% longer and just helps with bite on the pedal. You can tell if it's running PSCBs because the 10-piston monoblock brake calipers are painted white,
as opposed to the yellow of PCCBs. Right, that's enough initials.
We've also got, for the first time on an SUV apparently, according to Porsche, an active rear wing. It's not very big, but it will act as an air brake as well in extreme circumstances. So is this car still a guilty pleasure for me? Well, it hasn't, I don't think, raised the game really in terms of chassis dynamics in the corners from the last model. If anything, perhaps the steering is perhaps not quite as good. Where this car really is better though is in ride comfort, that everyday ability to soak up the bumps and soothe you over a long journey. The old car always, there was just an underlying sort of, I suppose, sort of tightness to it, which is what gave it its great agility. But this new 3-chamber air suspension has just relaxed the whole car.
While I doubt even Porsche would try to claim that a Cayenne is as consummately capable off-road as a Range Rover or Mountain Goat, it does nonetheless have the ability to take you to places that the majority of cars can only dream of. This new version even has pre-programmed drive and chassis modes to make it easier. It's often the tyres that are fitted which are the limiting factor in terms of what it can do and how hard you can hit stuff. And, just as with an aerial Nomad, there is something bizarrely fun about herring along a road as fast as a sports car, and then moments later being halfway up a hill and a long way from any tarmac. Without a massive accident in between, that is.
So if we come back on road, and I'm going to turn it to Sport, I'm going to go all the way to Sport Plus. And what's it like? Well, I've heard it described before as a big Mitsubishi Evo, and that's perhaps being a bit kind, but it is extraordinary what this car can do. And the fact that in the corners, it really does feel very rear biased. Out of hairpins, you can even get it to oversteer just a little bit, which is quite fun. Silly, but fun. It's not quite akin to an Airbus A380 handling like a pit special, but you get the idea.
Ultimately, I think the new Cayenne Turbo lacks a little of the previous generation's gritty driver appeal, as there was weightier steering and a dirtier engine sound from the old car. And that's a bit of a shame. Having said that, the new car is still remarkably athletic, and there is no denying that this latest Cayenne is much better in regards to its interior and its ride quality. In other words, the qualities that matter to 99% of the people that will buy one. Given the choice, I'd still obviously pick something small and lightweight for a proper drive on these amazing Cretan roads. But if I was driving along, skimming low to the ground, and I looked in the mirror to see the distinctive lights of a new Cayenne Turbo bearing down on me, I wouldn't be entirely surprised.
Sheep. That's a lot of sheep. Come on. Out of the way. Shoo.